Is Dehancer the cheat code that will take you to the blissful heights of YouTube stardom? Will you finally be able to make a video with almost 10,000 views? Hi, I'm Jason, a guy with a video on YouTube with almost 10,000 views. As a professional editor who's never specialized as a colorist per se, I love Dehancer. And that is the plugin that I will be talking about right now with you. Hot! I've been using it for my personal projects for about a year and have found it to be realistically film-like, intuitive, as simple or as complex as I choose to make it, and a gateway to learning color in DaVinci. I've been a hobbyist photographer for over 20 years and I learned on film. My high school had a dark room and everything. In college, I took advantage of any chance I got to shoot my projects on film, including my senior thesis. And after college, I got into home developing black and white in my bathroom. Even though I mostly shoot digital these days, I still love film, and like so many other people, I've wanted to achieve the film look. And Dehancer is my favorite tool I've found so far to emulate film. Dehancer has a lot going on, but I actually find it to be a pretty intuitive interface. If you don't want to deal with a color space transform, you can choose your camera, make any exposure, temperature adjustments right here on top. For big swings, you can try out the many film profiles. Dehancer has some literature on the topic of their process of creating these. It's very interesting. But there are some very different looks here, and something will probably work for your project. The film developer section allows you to do some contrast, some color boosts. It's worth playing with. Film compression, if enabled, by default will bring down the highlights. I like to play with the color density here, as well as in another place later. Expand is another way to change your contrast. Print is probably my favorite feature. I love the Kodak 2383 look with just a boost in the color density. You can check the analog range limiter for a quick way to lower your contrast in like a sort of realistic looking way. The color head lets you shift colors around and also change the exposure in different ranges. That can be interesting. I don't usually use this one a lot, but there's definitely a lot to experiment with here. Film grain, this is a big one for Dehancer. And again, the company writes about their process in creating this effect, which it's a good read if you have the time and are interested. I prefer to tone it way down, like to 1 or maybe 2. You can see the fuzz in the scopes that even a low number makes. This is where you can turn it up if you're looking for like an underexposed 8mm home movie look. Halation is important for film, but again, I like to keep this subtle most of the time. I've gone crazy with it in the past, but just adding a bit to the red channel sells the effect, I think. Bloom is good for hazing up your highlights and softening skin a bit. Film damage adds like dust and dirt and stuff. I don't usually use this, but a little can be useful depending on what you're going for. Film breath you can see almost better in the scopes. It gives a flicker effect and the color channels jitter around independently. And gate weave is in a similar vein, kind of recreating a projection that has some loose tolerances. I've always loved this effect for text. I like title sequences in older movies just for that jitter. I used to mess around with wiggle expressions in After Effects for that kind of thing, but I think Dehancer does it better. Overscan is for those times where you just need the sprockets. Okay, you're gonna see the sprockets. I don't particularly need this, but I can see how this would be useful for the occasional like stylized client work. Vignette is here, and I typically use this vignette. I like it. So I use it to kind of like accentuate the vignette of some of the vintage lenses that I use, or kind of simulate the vignette effect for newer lenses. And then they throw in a false color option and a LUT generator, which is a nice touch if you want to export a look and use it to monitor on set. And in between those is the output section, where you can essentially change the opacity or mix of the entire Dehancer effect. So if you think you've pushed it too far, you can tone down the entire effect quickly without having to play with all the individual parameters. So when I say that Dehancer can be as simple or as complex as you choose to make it, I mean you have a broad range of parameters to fiddle with and get a look that you're really happy with, but you can also keep it really simple and get something great. A lot of the time, I don't even use a film profile Instead, I just throw on the 2383 print profile, bump up the color density, add a tiny bit of grain, enable halation and bloom, add a little vignette, and that's it. It's like a way better first pass on color than a Rec 709 LUT, and it can definitely be enough to call it done. That being said, Dehancer is a jumping off point for learning how to get more out of Resolve. There are far better tutorials than this one that go through the node structure. Typically, I just add one for noise reduction, which isn't always necessary, one for exposure contrast, one for white balance and other color changes, and then Dehancer in its own node at the end. So obviously, I'm biased in this review because I benefit from people using my promo code when they buy Dehancer, but I genuinely was using Dehancer for almost a year before they reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be part of the affiliate program. I bought it with my own money, and I love it. The price tag is a little scary, but for me, getting a new tool in the toolbox every now and again can be really inspiring, and in this instance, it's cheaper than buying a whole new camera that you think will completely change your videos. So if you're skeptical but curious, go ahead and get the free trial. Download it, see what you think. And if this is the video that convinces you to take the plunge and buy the full version, please consider using my promo code PEARLMAN for 10% off your purchase. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more travel videos and other stuff I do with Dehancer, feel free to subscribe, or check out my other videos.